All right, physics. This is the multimeters and resistors, and you're going to need 4 resistors out of your Ziploc bag. And I think I gave 2 of each kind, so double check the color bands to make sure that you're getting 4 different ones for this activity. So you'll need to have 4 of your resistors, and then you're going to need your multimeter. Now the multimeter was set to the voltage for the last time we used it. We now need to be in this range for the resistance, so that we're going to turn this and we're going to go to the 200K. Now what this means is this is going to be 200,000 is the maximum that we could have, where the next notch down would be 20,000 is the maximum. This would be 2,000 of a maximum, and this would be 200 is the maximum. So these are all kind of like the maximum values that you can get. But we're going to just go ahead and start on the 200K, because I think most of these resistors, if I check them, they have an orange band in the middle, which puts them in the thousands of areas. So I think that's going to work for most of this. As you kind of go through and do the activity, you're going to see that there's a video here that you're going to watch, so you'll watch that and answer a question. There's where your color band chart is, and you'll go through and identify these. Now I listed them as R1, 2, 3, and 4, so make sure you know which one is R1, R2, R3, and R4, and that's dependent upon you. So like if I pick up this first resistor, that's going to be R1 for me. And then I'll read the color band and I'll record that and set it aside so you know that this is going to be your R1. And then your next one would be your R2, etc. When you get to the actual lab where you have to do the multimeter value, you're going to go through and just take the leads to the multimeter and then touch them to either side of the resistor. Now the resistors themselves don't have to be hooked up to anything. The multimeter itself is measuring that resistance. So you can go through and see what that resistance is, and remember that this is in the thousands, so really that's 46,500 ohms. Okay, so you'll want to make sure that you mark it in terms of the thousands. So go ahead and record your values here. When you do your percent error, your measured value is the one from your multimeter. The accepted value was the one that we get from the color code, and then we're going to compare that to the tolerance band, and I believe all of these have gold tolerance bands, so you're going to see that you want to be within 5%. So that's what we're expecting those resistors to be, is within the 5%. Okay? Now when you get down to the next part, you're going to connect the resistors together in either series or in parallel. So when I work to connect them in series, I'm going to take the ends of 2 resistors, okay, like this, and I'm just going to twist them together. Now this is why I gave you like extra ones, because sometimes the wires break off, but I just want to make sure that I have those connected. And then I'm going to make sure that they're in a line. So in other words, that's 2 resistors in series. And then you just go ahead and you touch it like here. You may need to adjust depending upon where our setting is. Okay, so I'm just going to touch them there, and so I can see that that's the value that I'm getting. And again, remember that's in the thousands, so that's 56,300. Okay, and so then I can do that, and then if I need to connect them in parallel, we want the resistors to kind of be side by side. So we're going to make sure that they get connected this way. So similar to what I did, but now I'm going to actually tie these 2 together as well. So now these are side by side, so they're in parallel, okay, with each other. And again, we'll just touch each side to get a quick test, and you can see what happens there. Okay, so that's how we're going to go through and measure them in series and in parallel. So you'll do that for all of the different combinations that I listed there, and you'll want to make sure that you have the right resistors based on what your original chart was at the top, so that we can check to see if you're doing things well. There are just 2 questions to answer at the end, so you can see if you notice any trends with that, and that's how you use your multimeter. to get your resistance measured of your resistors. Okay? And if you do have questions, connect with me at some other point.